how important is storytelling for let's talk specifically for business leaders or for managers or for people to become these industry icons.
There's a bottom line of storytelling. Nobody cares who you are. Nobody cares what you've done, but they might want to do business with you. If you tell people facts and figures, they will zone out because it's a lot to take in. But if you tell them a story about who you've affected and how you've helped them, it plays on a different part of your mind. It lights up 7 different parts of your brain under a CAT scan, as opposed to 1 or 2 parts of your brain. When you tell a story about the little lady who came to you and just launched a sandwich business, and she wasn't able to reach people, but she really wanted to get her new recipe out to people. So you sat with her and you worked with her, and she didn't have a lot of money, but she had this really good recipe. So after a while you said, well, why don't we just create some social media? Why don't you go live while you're making the sandwiches and tell people about how your mum taught you how to do it? So she starts doing this, and suddenly people are saying that's interesting and recognizing her. And when she said, if you'd like to have this, we're available in this store, and she was taking the sandwiches in at the beginning of the day, and they sold out, and people started to watch her show. And from that, she was able to scale. She got a team in who were making the sandwiches, and they were delivering to offices, delivering to shops, and she was able to take it to a whole new brand. As a direct result, her business went from 0 or a handful of customers to being $1 million a year business, purely because of the amplification and the fact she was genuine, and the love that went in with the sandwiches is what people felt, because it reminded them when they were growing up and their mother would make their sandwiches. Now, I've just made up that story, but if I was to tell you about how my marketing took people from 0 to $1 million, then you'd go, oh, that's fascinating, but thank you. But if I was to tell you about Mrs. Miggins and her pie shop and sandwich shop, then suddenly you've got an identity. And that's what we were brought up to remember from a very young age. We learned fairy tales that we can still recall now. 30 years after we last heard them, I can recall and tell you any of the fairy tales I was told as a child because they took me emotionally on a journey. That's why storytelling is a martial art that most business people don't understand. When you can amplify stories, true stories, about your business, then people will buy into you and the way it made them feel, and they can spread that word to other people. So there's a key to this for every single business person who wants to be able to unleash their stories. Go through your catalog of products. Go through the results you've had. Write out a question for every single thing that anybody could ask you. That's a brutal question. Why did you do that? How did you do that? How do you manage to affect it? What do you do under those circumstances? And write a story that justifies why you do it. You may have 60 stories, you might have 100 stories. Write them all down and categorize them as an answer to each of these different problems. And when you go out, select the story in sales meetings, in interviews, in chats, about how you made a difference through your business and made one person or one company's life better. And people want to hear you. And that will amplify. Not only will people talk about you, and word of mouth will be incredible, but also you'll find yourself on stages telling your stories. And people will just say, that's the person I want to work with.
Love it. And that is one way to develop telling stories. Like you said, write them down. How else do you develop the skills of telling stories?
Well, you have to think ultimately about what it is that people want. Your audience should always feel that this applies to them. So for instance, if you tell a story about a guy who's a millionaire, who's given money by his dad and then became a billionaire, whoopie-doo. Who cares about that story? But if you were to tell a story about a person who went from 0 to being a millionaire, that intrigues, not just because most people are in that position, but also because the fact is you want to know how they dealt with having 0 and the mindset and the drive and what they went through and the challenges, and that makes a really good, interesting story. Reason stories are so effective is 99% of Hollywood movies are based on one story, the hero's journey. The hero's journey has a guy or a girl who's a bit of a fish out of water. They're very good at doing one thing, but they're also a bit of a nerd or a geek at the same time. And they do all right, but people don't take them seriously sometimes. But then a big challenge comes along. It could be scoring a goal in the cup final. It could be taking the girl of their dreams to prom. It could be an alien invasion. It could be that they've got a disability, but they have to deal with it. It could be a ton of different things. But then they attempt to do it and they fail badly. At that stage, the mentor comes along. The mentor, who's a Morgan Freeman, Kevin Costner, Yoda, Obi-Wan Kenobi type character, comes along and says, I've done this before. Let me show you how to do it. Of course, the star, the hero, goes, no, I don't want to do it. I'll do it on my own. I'm fine. And reluctantly they get persuaded to join the mentor. Then the mentor takes them on a journey away from their world into a brand new world where their expertise means zero. And they fall over a lot and they make a fool of themselves, but it's a learning curve. And all the way you can see them growing and paying attention until they get to a point where they just go, actually, I'm not so bad at this. And then the original problem comes back again. Taking the girl to prom, it's that night. Football, scoring that penalty, you now have a penalty in last minute. The aliens are outside your house and they've got to step up. And just at that point where they've got to step up and go into battle and they start battling, a tragedy hits them. A loved one dies, something terrible that makes them fall down and never be able to get back up again. But then they dig deep into themselves and they resurrect their fallen spirit, their broken body, their challenge, and they raise themselves up beyond where they would be, and they win. They get the girl, they score the goal, they repel the alien invasion against all odds, and then they're left with a situation where, do I then go back to where I was before as a hero, or do I just take this new thing that I've learned about and spread the word of that, or do I ride off into the sunset to find new adventures? Now, as I say this, there's a number of people turn around and say, oh, yeah, I know that story. That was a story of 99% of Hollywood movies. That's why they tell that story. But the thing that most people don't know is most people spend their life wanting to be the hero, the star. How do I get this to happen? But the smart people, as you're doing with this podcast, realize that it's not about you. It's what about the difference you can make to people. So you don't become the hero. You become the mentor. So your experiences is about helping them on their journey. Your clients are the hero. You are the Kevin Costner, the Morgan Freeman, who helps them get what they need. And that's the key to storytelling.
Man, I love it. Wow, too powerful, man.